You got a lot of high school, middle school, not just women, but men playing volleyball right now. What's your advice to them on a couple things they can really work on as, that can help them get recruited, whether it's, a bigger school or smaller school, but what should they be working on?
I mean, the same thing with every sport, your footwork, your mindset, your ability to live in the moment, your ability to handle, being in funks, loving up your nervous system so you can tolerate stress, sleep, eating. But fundamentally, like within the craft of volleyball, I just think you want to master the fundamentals. You want to like we already kind of talked about specialization. Like I wanted to be the biggest asset I could be, and I wanted to not be taken out. And the more skills you have, the more, if you can bump set and spike and block and you're competent, not the best, but competent in all those, and you have great energy and you have good attitude, it's going to be hard to take you off the floor. My boys play basketball. They love it so much. And I'm like, you cannot just prioritize offense. Like you will not come off the floor if you play amazing defense and get those boards. Like you just have to do both. And it's just, again, it's range. And so for me, my recommendation for every volleyball player out there is to have gnarly footwork, get your body behind the ball, because with every skill, whether you're hitting or setting or passing, like you can't do anything without your feet. Like my coach in college said, Kerri, do you know how to become a great blocker? And I was like, no, like strong hands over the net. He's like, no, your feet. You block with your feet. And it's the same thing with every single skill. And I feel like these days they're calling it innovation, but they're not having the athletes move their feet. They're having them like use angles and, kind of these things that to me are like EFG instead of ABC. So again, I just think prioritize the fundamentals to me are footwork, ball control, and attitude and energy, and if you do that, you're going to be an asset. And never lose sight of those. Never lose sight of the fundamentals ever. Every day, work on that.
That's awesome. You mentioned mindset in as you were talking about all that, and we know all the great athletes, all the high achievers. The mental game is super critical. Today, kids are getting sports psychologists, so on and so forth. Wasn't probably true when you were coming up. How did you develop the right mindset?
Well, it's all still unfolding. Again, I think my love just for competing really helped me a lot because inherently I never thought about anyone else. It was just like, do I got it? Like I was just so worried about my game and being a great teammate. Like it wasn't all super self-involved, but I'm like, I want to handle my stuff. And so I worked really hard to be able to be competent and have that confidence and know that if I'm out there, if I do my best, I'm gonna be okay, but to be honest with you guys, like fear of failure drove me really hard for a long time and it made me really good. Like I busted my ass and I would be really hard on myself after a loss or a mistake. And it didn't diminish me until it did. At some point, my fear of failure and my focusing on what I did wrong and not celebrating, things I did right really started to shrink me. And that mechanism for greatness went away and I had to find something else. And what I transitioned to was where I'm terrible is where my potential is. And that's really exciting because I just have this insatiable hunger for self-improvement. And so it was a really big epiphany for me when I stopped looking, with my sports psychologist. He's like, Kerri, he's like, when you talk, he's like, first of all, just be very mindful of how you talk about your sport and yourself. He's like, you're stressing me out. And we're in a Hermosa Beach office on a Wednesday, like having a great day. And when you're talking about your sport in these moments, you're stressing me out. Like I can only imagine you're stressed out. He's like, so be mindful of the story you're telling in real time, in games, in practice and training. And that was really helpful. And something else he taught me, he's like, Kerri, he's like, instead of like thinking about big moments and, oh my gosh, the score is tied, like it's all on my shoulders. He's like, why don't you just think of it as a competitive moment? And it was like the biggest like sigh of relief that I've ever experienced in my sporting career because I'm a badass competitor. Like, and I love it. Like it's in my DNA and I've developed it and I love competing. And to compete, to do your best is literally just to be in the moment and let it rip. And when he told me to reframe big moments as competitive moments, it was just, and now it's like my favorite thing to share with young kids and adults. Like, you're in a moment, like, smile at it. Like, this is what it's all about, So my journey is long. I've had a lot of support. For a large part of my life, I was afraid to ask for help because I didn't want to sound like I was weak. To be honest, I started to get sports psychology help when my marriage was falling apart. My best friend said, "Hey, Kerri, go meet this guy, Mike Gervais, who's world class." She said he helped me. I went to him with volleyball, but he helped me for life, with my life. And that was the start of a dear friendship with Mike Gervais, Finding Mastery podcast. He's incredible. And I went to him for life, and he helped me with volleyball too.